Right now on Tech Radio, a trip down the Amazon.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. This is episode 1061, looking at the 7 biggest stories of the week, including AI on JFK with hilarious results. Meta AI is coming to Europe, and Amazon has actually arrived in Ireland. Let's get to
From
it.
TechCentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. And Niall, I've been waiting for this for, like, it seems forever. Amazon is here. Are you having a party this weekend to celebrate?
Well, you know, Amazon is here. We now have Amazon.ie, which means that for euro pricing, we no longer have to go to France or Germany. We don't have to worry about currency conversion if we go to amazon.co.uk, which I think most of us were doing. So now we have Amazon.ie. And it's not like Amazon, you know, is an unfamiliar presence in Ireland. I mean, between AWS and fulfillment centres and everything else. I mean, the company employs 6,500 people in Ireland. I mean, they've got a very substantial presence. I mean, that's, you know, I think that's more than... Well, no, it's not quite Facebook or Google level, but it's substantial. You would certainly notice it if it disappeared. However, what does this mean for local business, Dusty? Does this are you more or less likely to buy from Amazon.ie?
Oh, I'm way more likely to buy from Amazon.ie. You know, they're giving all this kind of like, you know, we have a section devoted to Irish brands, and Irish brands have sold 170 million on Amazon in 2023, you know, kind of shop local, support local businesses. I'm all for, forget that. No way. I don't care. All right. I use Amazon for one thing in particular, and it is the Hector Gray of tech shopping for me. All right. I just love buying little tech things, and I keep an eye on it, and then I order it and it arrives the next day. That's all I want. All right.
Oh, Hector Gray.
Yeah, and then the advantage of it, because you know I'm running a business and stuff like that, is I can register for VAT and stuff like that. So I get all of these things. Oh, hang on, will I? Oh no, I can claim back the VAT. That's what I can do. So yeah, so I'm delighted. I'm very much the type who will sit there on the phone looking at and I go, oh, that I've always wanted one of those SSDs.
Yeah.
Or I'll try out that tablet, or I need that cable. I need it. I must have it. Whatever. So it'll be handy from that side of things. However, 2 things to watch if you're like myself, or if you're buying anything on Amazon. Number one is I do notice just over the last few days, some of the prices on the Amazon.ie are considerably higher than what I would have seen on the German and the French websites. So I was like, exactly. If you want to double check now, I never did check. I know this works with the German and the French websites, but there's a website called Camel. And what it does is you put in the product that you've been looking for on Amazon, and it will give you the price history for that product.
Ooh, that's useful.
Yeah, it is very useful, because you know you can see the highest price that it was at, the lowest price where it was at, and where it is now. So you can really see if you're actually bagging a bargain. But yeah, there we go. No, I'm delighted. As you say, it saves so much hassle. You know, it's kind of, you're buying from the UK. It's in sterling. It's you know, I know there's never a problem, but I still worry that, you know, the customs cert is going to come with the blinking thing, and I have to pay more on the front door of the house.
Okay, well, here's the thing.
Yeah,
I did a few searches on Amazon.ie, and I almost a similar experience. I actually did not find things on .ie than I was finding on the other sites, and this was just in music. I was pushing in, you know, albums that I wanted to buy, bands that I like, and for some reason, like, things just weren't appearing, and not even that obscure, you know, by my standards anyway. So I was a little bit taken aback by that. One thing, yep, absolutely showed up, but a few things, no. And what was substituted in their place wasn't from was from like homewares and things like that. And had nothing to do with the keywords and what I was looking for. So I was like, that's either the weirdest feature I've ever seen, or, it's a flaw in their search or something like that. Personally, always shop local in the sense of go to a company's individual website, have a look, see if you can buy from there. And I use Amazon only as a last resort. Or for,
And I know people who will avoid Amazon at all costs because Jeff Bezos doesn't need the money.
He doesn't need the money.
What they would see is abusive employment practices, etc., and so on. So there's always a plus and a minus and a pro and a con to everything. For me, though, I'm delighted that we finally have our own Irish version we could buy in euro. Boom. Yeah. Right. Elsewhere in the news today, the JFK files, of course, have been released in the States, and I don't think there was anything particularly wild coming out of that. But you have tried it on Perplexity.
Well, I thought this was absolutely fantastic. I found this on X. Perplexity, through its official account, posted, "Hey, I have just scanned 80,000 documents of the released Kennedy files. Ask me anything about it," right? And people were sort of, some of the weird questions that were being asked. And some of it was, this is a wonderful example of conspiracy theorists never being able to change their opinion on something, right? There will always be a black hole. There will always be a gap that is, the real truth is what they're not telling you, etc., etc. So somebody asked Perplexity outright, who killed JFK? The answer, we're not entirely sure. It was most likely Lee Harvey Oswald. And it's the we're not entirely sure that has created this rabbit hole of people saying, I'm not even going to go into, who has been ascribed responsibility for it. But I mean, if you would watch JFK, the movie released in the 90s, nearly 4 hours of cinematic greatness by Oliver Stone, you are none the wiser at the end of it. You're like, well, probably. And that is exactly what you're going to get at the end of 80,000, pages of documents.
Kind of moving on from that, I've noticed with AI lately, because 2 years when it came out, it used to hallucinate and say things as if they were fact. AI seems to be getting very much not saying things as they're fact. And it seems to be more, well, if you do this and it could be different on the thing that you're looking for. It's gone real cagey. Any of the AIs that I use. Which I think is funny. But there's something coming up about data provenance with AI, because quite simply, we have a thing in audio, all right? And I'm going to curse now, so be careful with your ears, okay? With audio production, and the phrase is shit in, shit out. If you're putting in bad quality stuff, you're going to get bad quality results coming out the far side. It tends to be the same with AI, and there's something going on to try and help that.
Absolutely the same thing. Absolutely the same thing. And when we're talking to people on the show about AI over the years, one of the first things we ask is about the quality of data. And invariably people say, yeah, this is a problem. And it's something that we're going to have to deal with through standardization of one form or another, whether it be internal or some sort of international standard. In terms of the international standard, we are now looking to the OASIS digital provenance standard. There's a technical committee that has been meeting on it recently. And on one level, it's sort of a so what? I mean, you can have these open source opt-in standards, but what does it mean? It's all about the backing of who's involved in it. Well, we've got Microsoft, IBM, and Cisco amongst the backers of OASIS. And that is a great sign that when you get big tech involved, you will get good backing and widespread adoption. I mean, based on the conversations that we've had going back years, people are talking about the nature of the data they're dealing with, the lack of consistency in how it is gathered, because naturally enough, a lot of the data that models are being trained on came from a different era, came from different systems. So you're naturally going to get hallucinations if, what you are feeding in is indeed, as you said, shit. So it's great to see an international standard in the works. Everybody's going to benefit from it. Companies will certainly benefit from it when they're training their internal models. So what's not to like?
Absolutely. Other news this week, Google, two big stories on Google. Google is getting very involved with Wiz. I've never heard of Wiz. What or why is Wiz?
Wiz is the kind of company that you will probably never hear of in your lifetime, but their work is absolutely essential, right? So Wiz is an Israeli startup, and they work in enterprise IT. So for large organizations, they work on the cybersecurity end there. So they look at, in particular, cloud security. So for the likes of your Gmail, for example, or if you've got a large corporate network or something like that, this is the kind of company that makes sure they are secure. And they have been bought over by Google for $32 billion. This is an absolute record. This is kind of why this is big news, because Google isn't really known for its presence in the enterprise space. They've got sort of a three-prong strategy to it. They bought a company called Mandiant, which you might be familiar already. They've also got two products, Google Threat Intelligence and Google Security Operations. So these are, they're important products that are playing in the enterprise space. And what is being added with Wiz is that sort of capability of managing not just cloud security, but multiple clouds at the same time as well. Because some companies, they like to keep some things internally on their own servers. They might like to use a public server for other things. And this is really where Wiz comes into its own. So it's a sort of company that you'll notice when they're not doing something right. But you can probably go through one end of your life as a conventional user to the other and not hear a thing about them. But there you go. Such is the nature of enterprise IT. It's the boring yet really expensive stuff that keeps us all going.
32 billion seems to be the number of the week for Google because they could be facing a 32 billion euro fine from the EU. Do you know this ongoing case? I don't think it'll ever be settled in our lifetime.
Okay.
But the EU are pursuing a case through the Digital Markets Act for the violation of Google. And this is the whole, do you remember the Google shopping links where they were giving preference to their own shopping links? And then they're also weren't allowing people on Google Play to say, well, actually, if you buy direct from our website, you can get it at a cheaper price and all that kind of stuff, So they're going to pursue that. The fine, here's something I didn't know, right? We always knew that they could impose a maximum fine of 10% of global revenues. All right. Now, this is where the 32 billion comes into a thing, because Alphabet's revenues in 2024 was in and around 320 billion.
Wow.
Which means 10% of that would be 32 billion. But here's a thing in the EU side of things is that fine can double for repeat offenders.
Ooh.
Can you imagine 20%? Now, I'm kind of thinking, wow, that's amazing. Can you imagine $64 billion or whatever fine or euro fine or whatever? Would Google pay it? That would be so wrapped up in courts for so long that literally our children's children might benefit.
This is a point that we had with Max Schrems when we interviewed him years and years and years ago when we were talking about GDPR fines. And I said, look, for as long as it is profitable to engage in GDPR violations, do you think the likes of Google and Facebook will just eat the fines and work with the net, or will they actually comply and change their practices? And he was a little bit cynical at the time. And he said, look, for as long as these things are practical, they will eat the fines. That's it. For as long as Google is insanely profitable, they will eat fines from the EU. It will take something genuinely prohibitive on their ability to do business within the bloc that will
and actually, do you know what? That's the thing, because I mean, the fine is one thing, but the real thing is if you stop them from trading within the EU, because it is such a big market. But I mean, could Google survive, or any of them? Could Google, could Apple, could Facebook survive by not trading in the EU? I absolutely think they could, because they've still got India. They've still got the rest of the world. They've got North America. They're still very popular in South America. I mean, that's still millions and millions. There's, what is it, 8 billion on the planet? And Europe is 300, 400 odd million.
Yeah, but we're fairly affluent as well. We are spenders.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Anyway, speaking of money, let's talk about the world's greatest deal maker and Conor McGregor fan, Donald Trump. His administration has been giving us some clever financial advice,
some investment advice, because we know that the Department of Government Efficiency has not been a particularly successful entity. An awful lot of its recommendations are being overturned in court. An awful lot of its apparent discoveries have not been discoveries at all, or rather have uncovered, a not great level of, how would we say? Well, I mean, in some cases, the quality of data collected has not been fantastic, but has not actually cost the taxpayer anything. He was claiming that, millions of people are claiming social welfare because their dates of birth are blah, and it's not. I mean, the date of birth might be blah, but people have not been collecting social welfare under those names because those dates of birth are patently ridiculous. So they are not recovering as much money as it was thought. They're letting go a lot of people that are having to be rehired. Creating an awful lot of chaos. Musk himself came out at the start and said, look, this is going to be a lot of hardship for the middle class, to which the middle class across America has been going, what do you mean hardship? You're a billionaire. We're all for efficiency, but come on. What's the return on this? I get to lose my job. Is that it? Anyway, so let's go to the meat of this story. Elon Musk and Tesla have seen their fortunes plummet in recent times. Tesla's share price is 50% of what it was as we're talking. And Mr. Musk has not been happy about it. He's actually been quite emotional on television about it. He gave an interview with Fox's Larry Kudlow, who straight out asked him, how do you manage all your companies? To which Musk said, with great difficulty. Which sort of means I'm not. I've got my hobby over here in Doge, where I get to say I'm not an employee, but I'm clearly am. His head has just been completely turned. He posts all day on X, and he has his name associated with Doge, which is an incredibly unpopular initiative. So what has happened? Well, two things that were quite hilarious. One was President Trump decided, I'm going to buy a Tesla, line them all up outside the White House. And he picked a red Model S. Isn't that lovely? Tesla has lost $140 billion. I'm buying one of these bad boys over here.
Yeah.
Well done. Consequently, Sean Hannity also said he's buying a Tesla. It just makes you wonder, like, if Tesla is becoming this sort of right-wing badge of honor, is this like the best way to get EVs mainstream? Just to get EVs' biggest enemies buying them out of spite?
Well, all I'm hearing is that people who own Teslas on this side of the world are now embarrassed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stickers. There's a lot of viral videos. Of course, we had a service center for Teslas firebombed during the week as well. Three cars exploding in fairly dramatic fashion. Not to mention the fact that Cybertrucks are falling apart. Literally. Apparently, they're held together with glue, and some of the paneling is coming loose and falling off, which is not great, considering that the only people that can actually fix these things are Tesla.
Right. So with all of this, all right, with prices down and faulty products and bad reputations and the whole thing, what's the advice from the White House?
Well, the advice from the official advice from the White House, thanks to the new Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, is you should buy Tesla shares right now because you should always buy in the dip.
Can you imagine getting share advice from Micheál Martin or Simon Harris?
It boggles the mind. It really
absolutely boggles. Well, do you know what? No, it doesn't boggle the mind at all, because it's a small little click up at the top. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, well, you're not doing so good. Well, I'll tell you what, let's put on a big show of buying one of your cars, and we get some of our, famous buddies to buy some of your cars, and then we'll tell people to buy the dip. Yeah. Yada, yada, yada.
It's a party and we're not invited.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think that Elon Musk has completely lost his little Tony Stark kind of a sheen. Because he was Mr.
Oh, he was.
Multi-billionaire for a long time, wasn't he?
Well, he was totally the inspiration for Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark in Iron Man, famously, which brings us to that wonderful piece of stunt casting for the next Avengers films, where it was all like, who's going to play Doctor Doom, and what's Marvel going to do without Robert Downey Jr.? Well, guess who's playing Doctor Doom? It is Robert Downey Jr., Marvel's greatest villain, played by the guy who was, Marvel's greatest hero. How brilliant is that? I mean, the stars aligned with that decision. At the time I was looking at it going, that is total stunt casting. That is ridiculous. And now it's like, it's the villain for our times. Got to say it.
Listen, Meta AI is coming to Europe. I want to get to that in a few minutes' time. But just speaking of Meta very quickly, the whistleblower book that we were talking about last week, Sarah Wynne Williams, do you remember the one that Facebook and Meta are desperately trying to shut her up? Mm-hmm. All right. And they've gone to court and they've got this whole thing banning her. It's number one on the New York Times.
Yeah.
This always happens. It's like, when you say don't do something, then everybody goes and does it.
Don't press the red button, whatever you do.
Absolute basic kind of stuff. Also, vinyl sales was another thing that came up on my radar this week before we get into this Meta story. Vinyl, they keep going on about it having a resurgence. I'm split on this, and I know you really like your music. So let me run the numbers past you, all right? In the States last year, $1.4 billion was spent on vinyl records. That's the same revenue as 1984, when I would say the vinyl was, maybe not quite at its peak, but it was certainly the everyday way that you got music. And then, of course, you have that whole argument, well, hang on a minute, like $1.4 billion in 1984 was worth a hell of a lot more than it is now, which is probably true. Vinyl, when you look into the sales, is more popular than compact discs today, which I found surprising. There's about 44 million sales of vinyl compared to 33 million of CD. However, all of this 1.4 billion sales on vinyl just pales into the background when you look at streaming, which is generating $12 billion. It's 12 times bigger, or thereabouts, 10 times bigger, whatever. So I wonder, because you're into music, are you a physical guy? Do you like the whole own it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm all about owning it. But here's the thing, right? I mean, radio doesn't cater to my taste in music. And that's fine.
No.
I mean, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So I will find something on Spotify and I will go, do you know what? I like that. I'll support that artist. I'll go buy their CD.
And that's the way that you work it.
Yeah.
I do miss, because I remember, and it was the same with CDs as it was with vinyl, was actually going and getting it. It's the same with books. I love bookstores, okay, and I love going in and having a look and and I have it, and you can hold it and you can look at it and you can smell it and whatever on the bus on the way home and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, there is that, and then also here's something I never considered. All right, when you have a physical copy, you've got it forever. All right. You might have a copy on a Kindle. Something could happen where they go, oh, sorry, we don't stock that book anymore. Even though that you bought it, we don't have the rights to keep it on your Kindle anymore. Vump, it's gone. It's the same with Spotify. If one of the artists takes exception, and they have done before, and said, all right, pull all of my music off Spotify. And if you're a big fan of whoever, Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa or whatever it is, or the Rolling Stones or whatever, the music is gone. So at least if you have the CDs or the vinyl, it's there. However, I'm more into the streaming side of things. I think it's better in the long run because I think the quality is better than vinyl. I know I'll be killed for that. And I also find the convenience is absolutely, because remember, I worked as a baby DJ doing weddings, 21st bar mitzvahs and all that kind of stuff, right? And I would literally be carrying around hundreds of vinyl records and albums and singles and everything with me. And I'll tell you, that is back breaking. So the fact that I could just show up now, and this is what all the big DJs do when they do the gigs in Ibiza, they show up with a USB key, boom. That's it. I've seen it happen. However, those numbers I thought were interesting. I thought it was interesting the vinyl sold more than CD, and I thought it was interesting that streaming is still 10 times bigger than what vinyl is in the States. Anyway, that's an aside. Meta AI coming to Europe. Tell me about it and what does it mean?
Yeah, it's been a long and winding road for Meta bringing their AI to Europe. They just celebrated 1 billion downloads of Llama, which is their open source LLM. And I guess this is part 2 of their celebrations. Meta AI has been around since September last year in the States, and the big argument has been, well, how are we going to get this thing over to Europe? And it's the same argument that Apple is having or has had with Europe as well. I mean, Apple Intelligence is due next month, and so is Meta AI. So whatever problems were being had with Europe have been overcome en masse, which is nice. We get to see a little bit more competition in the space. I don't know, to be honest. What exactly are we going to be getting here? We are going to be getting AI-powered features within Meta. So if you're not a Facebook user or a Messenger user, what's in it for you? And will a lot of the people actually use it? I mean, let's face it, Meta has an aging population. Are they more likely to be using AI features than anyone else? I'm kind of on the fence on this. On one level, yeah, it's inevitable. AI has to come to Meta, has to come to their basic apps. Otherwise, they're just going to be left behind. So it's essential that they at least are playing in this field.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that it's been available in the States since September 23. So that's 18 months or something like that. We're not exactly gagging where, we must have that feature. Can you think of a single feature that they have in the States that we don't have here that we're like, oh my God, we must have it?
Yeah, but I think it might be a case of, we don't have Facebook's version, but we have somebody else's. If that makes
Explain
sense.
yourself.
You can't do this in Facebook, but you can do it through another app.
Do what? Give me an example.
Okay, right. Say if you're looking at, let's take a very basic example, right? Say summarizing a conversation.
Right. Okay.
Right.
That's the kind of features that we're waiting.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not mind blowing.
No. Do you know what? I think an awful lot of AI is it's a solution looking for a problem.
I think so, and looking for brand appropriate problems. Because, how many Facebook enterprise users are out there? Not many.
No, true. And do you know what? We were saying the same thing about Apple AI in that kind of like, AI, Apple Intelligence. We have not really been hearing about the amazing things that it is doing that we absolutely must have.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Meta AI could do something like, okay, I'm going on holiday. What should I be doing? And it'll pull together resources on that. That's nothing you can't get anywhere else. That's not unique. Anyway,
right. Okay. So we remain unimpressed. Final story of the week. Back to Google. All right. A bit of a crazy story involving $28 million. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Google forking out $28 million in settlement of a class action suit. Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. Do you remember years ago, there was a lawsuit against Amazon because what they did was they wanted to streamline their hiring process. So they took CVs for jobs that were being advertised, and they ran it through a model that was basically saying, who are the most successful kind of people for doing this job? Just as a way of, almost removing a tier of interviews. And of course, all it ended doing was answering the question, what kind of person works at Amazon? And do we just, if you want more people that are working well as Amazon, just pick people that are the same as people already working at Amazon, which is appallingly discriminating. I mean, it's appalling discrimination. You know, it's you know, so they had to pull that fairly quickly because they realized that the only people that would be offered jobs would be white guys in their 20s, you know? And this is something Google has had to deal with of a sort in this lawsuit, which was initiated by Anna Cantu, who identifies as Mexican and racially indigenous, right? So that's where she's starting from. And she said, she raised the point that her Hispanic, Latino, indigenous, Native American, and other minority backgrounds at Google were effectively being blocked from moving forward in their careers at the same rate as, you know, white guys and Asian guys who seem to be doing much better, much quicker. And they were like, "Why? What's the story here? Like, we're performing at the same level, but we're not progressing up the ladder. What's going on here?" So rather than Google come out and say, "Yes, we're using a technology that actually selects people that are already like our most selective or successful employees," or maybe there's a problem in HR where people are hiring people that are pretty much like themselves, that there's, you know, an inbuilt bias there, or, you know, we're using an automated system that is creating these outputs. Google have not admitted liability in this, but they have settled to the tune of 28 million, which on the surface looks okay, kind of respectable. On the other hand, the class involved in this is 6,600 people big.
Okay.
You know, like, people aren't going to be getting an awful lot of money out of it. Now, the period in question goes from 2018 to the end of 2024. So you look like you're doing some maths there, Dusty. So
I am. It's working at around 4,000 per person.
Ah, come on! And once you can take out lawyer fees and all that kind of thing, I mean, your people are going to end up with like a couple of hundred for their trouble.
They will get the honor of saying, "I was right."
Get the honor of saying, "I took Google to court and reached a stalemate." Well done, sir.
It is interesting, and it is a reflection on, I suppose, the tech industry and life and how it is at the moment. And anyways, right, listen, that's it for news this week. And Niall, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
And that about wraps it up for this week's show. We still have a couple of more stories online that we didn't manage to get to chat about today, including...
Yeah, we have the first OS for quantum computers. A Logicalis survey shows what CIOs all agree on, which is an interesting concept in and of itself. And DeepSeek beware, because Baidu has entered the chatbot space.
Oh, you'll find all of those and more online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show for you online and with RT Radio 1 Extra. And do remember to share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to search for Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now also on YouTube. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.